Hello, my name's Steve Jasper, aka the Jet Lag Guy, and welcome to my podcast, Whatever Happened to Baby Jet Lag?
Whatever happened with baby jet lag?
Whatever happened?
We'll find out. And I am the co-host, Arthur Chen, the chatty curator.
Steve, whatever happened to baby jet lag?
Well, let's find out.
Now, here's a little behind the scenes thing that I always get some notes from you about the episode. And this one is something about sports, and I have no idea, so I'm just going to get
in
you
the
to
news.
start. Yeah.
So the NRL, National Rugby League, they're playing games in Vegas. And amongst the games, I think they've got 4 games, but the two that stand out for me are the Canberra Raiders versus the New Zealand Warriors, Penrith Panthers versus Cronulla Southern Sharks, and there's Wigan versus Warrington, they're UK teams obviously, and there's a women's game as well, the women Australian Gillaroos versus the England's women's team. So lots of games happening, lots of jet lag, because as you might have noticed, none of those teams are located in or around anywhere near Las Vegas and Nevada. They're all Australia, New Zealand or UK teams.
And they probably would be flying east.
Well, the Australia, New Zealand teams are flying east, the UK teams are flying west.
That's advantage?
Well, not so much, because they're also flying a lot of time zones west. Although admittedly with Wigan and Warrington, they're both UK teams, they're both from the same time zone, so it kind of evens out. Again, with Penrith versus Cronulla, they're both Sydney teams, so in terms of what's happening there, it's the same number of time zones.
It's an even playing field of
It's a level playing field, literally.
It's very leveled, and because everyone's suffering from
Everyone's suffering,
Oh,
but there's 2 games where they're suffering equally. And then you've got Canberra versus New Zealand.
Yeah. That's a little bit different.
That is different, but New Zealand has a little advantage because they're crossing 2 fewer time zones.
Okay.
So New Zealand is a little bit closer in terms of time zones and geography. And then you have Australian women versus England women, and they're both pretty awful in terms of time zones. The Australians are flying east, but the English are flying west. They might be flying further. I haven't checked out the maths on this. It's just very messy. So I get that the NRL is wanting to showcase their talent and break into the American market, and way better than Vegas. I think, it's Las Vegas does for America what the Gold Coast does for here, Australia. It's like you want trashy spectacle, Vegas / the Gold Coast.
Well, look, I hope that they all be great ambassadors of the
countries
sports
or
and
regions.
countries, and hope that it works out for them. But look,
Absolutely.
I mean, the other thing is, like, as we mentioned in an earlier episode, that the sporting field are taking jet lag seriously. So maybe they have consulted with.
They do. Look, the sporting community is fantastic for this, and we saw that at the Olympics, particularly the Paris Olympics, where I did not predict us to do well, and we had the biggest gold medal tally ever. We had 18, and it was mostly women's sports that did that. I don't know if the women just took the advice and the men just powered on. I don't know. I'm speculating, but the sport community is very good at taking advice from sport medicine, and they'll have some leading people who consult for them, like the Boston Red Sox. They're only travelling across the states 3 hours. That's enough to affect your performance, but they had Professor Charles Chust from the Harvard Sleep.
Wow.
So they pull in the big guns. So the sporting community is great for that. The business community, not so great, and that's where I step in. So that's why I do one-on-one consulting with business leaders, or run workshops and write the book, and have the app, all that sort of thing. So the business community has yet to pick it up. But
Well, the good thing is that, I encourage you to check out Steve's LinkedIn profile, because there's a lot of great posts. And how else can they find you?
Well, they can find me at my website, www.jetlagguy.com.au, on this YouTube channel here. So if you go to my YouTube channel, The Jet Lag Guy, or you can see me, as mentioned, on LinkedIn, Dr. Stephen Jasper, and I'm on Blue Sky.
There you
So
go.
A little bit of Blue Sky activity there.
And well, hopefully that we get to end jet lag. And then after the break, we'll be talking about your next episode.
Yes.
Steve, there's another Stephen that I admire a lot, who had
Came from behind.
yes, and
Twice.
Yes, and that won the very first Australian gold medal at the Winter Olympics.
Yes, we have to acknowledge Steven Bradbury, and the reason his name's coming up, I talk about him and speed skating in general with Dr. Giorgio Varesco. Now he's at the University of Montreal in Canada, and he was observing and researching Canadian speed skaters. And it came up because, speed skating is such a big thing in Canada because they have lots of ice and snow, and not a big thing in Australia. Not a lot of ice. We do have some, but not a lot. And of course, the towering legend in the field of speed skating is Steven Bradbury, who was not expected to win. In the qualifying round, everyone in front of him, someone slipped and they all tangled or fell over. He went around from behind and won, and then repeated that at the finals and got the gold medal.
Well, that's why they call it doing a Bradbury.
Doing a Bradbury, coming from behind and just overcoming everything and winning. So, and it's a wonderful story, and it is such an Australian story. He did us proud. He didn't attempt breakdancing or anything like that.
Oh God. Well, but of course that you are talking to Dr. Giorgio
Giorgio Varesco,
Yep.
And he observed, and they put all sorts of wires and things and measured melatonin levels and what have you. And he noticed that the speed skaters were recovering from jet lag quickly, more quickly than expected. Looking at why they do that.
So, well, I guess I have to listen to the episode. When is it coming out?
Friday morning. So it drops at midnight on Friday our time, and it's a lot of fun. It's a privilege to be speaking with someone who's an expert in this level of expertise. So dropping him Friday morning. So listen for that. The interviews go for about half an hour, and I let them do most of the talking. So.
It's a very different series. I really enjoy it. So please make sure that to leave a like and share and follow on your website. We'll repeat it. We'll repeat it until the end of time. So it's the jetlagguy.com.au.
Yeah.
Stephen, you have a new series, and I also have a new series of podcasts, and you are showing up again, and it's video based. And I wonder how is your journey of doing videos and all of these things.
It's been a journey, and I think if you look at this podcast series, you'll see the difference between episode 1 and now. I think you'll notice a difference, an improvement, I hope. But learning as you go, and it's very much a case of ready, fire, aim kind of thing. Where you just what I am fond of using. I use Canva. I have a Canva subscription. I've had it coming up for a year now. And I like to, this series I edit quite heavily. We've got the 3 segments. We've got each, start and finish, and then adding images as appropriate. Especially my demented red clocks. I'm proud of that. I'm owning that because it's such a good metaphor for jet lag.
Yeah.
Red is it's biological color, really.
Yeah.
So. But there's a lot, I look for interesting images, and sometimes Canva is wonderful, other times Canva's not so great in terms of, and that's not just Canva, that's the image repository, that we've got, what I have and haven't got access to. So that's where I like the AI images of the red clocks. But
Well,
yeah,
Yeah, and the other thing is like, I mean, I consider myself very lucky to be part of this journey
yeah,
because I'm also enjoying like being a little bit experimental with doing the filming and just setting things up. And this is like, this is not like a fancy video studio, but then
that's my lounge room.
well, exactly. But then the good thing is like we're just practicing different ways to make it work.
Yeah,
It's about getting the messages across, and
it is. And you experiment. Some
Yes.
things work, some things don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, that I always say to people that is I don't know what I want, but I know what I don't want.
Well, yeah. And for this series, I edit quite heavily because it's dynamic. There's talking about things, so there's lots of flashing images, and it takes me about half day to each podcast episode. The interview series, even though they're three
Ending
times
jet
as long, ending jet lag, is
Yep.
3 times as long. It doesn't take me as long to interview because I let them talk. I just typically I'll sit them down. We get on Zoom, have a Zoom meeting, and I'll talk with them for about 15 minutes or so, just what I want to talk about, and we'll get a structure, an approximate structure of how the talk's going to go.
There you go.
And then I press record, and then I let them talk, and I'll go through the structure and then finish. And it's really easy. I add a few images for interest, because otherwise it's just talking heads. Half hour of talking heads, no one wants that. That's why you cut to images to keep you, the viewer,
Engaged.
engaged.
Yes.
So
Well,
that's what we do,
Yeah.
and it's a lot of fun. I enjoy working on my podcast more than working on the website, working on the taxes.
Oh.
Although that I've got set up as just spreadsheets now. I don't
no.
think about it. It's just like,
But what I'm really happy to witness is that you are experimenting with different formats, with different concept and ideas.
Filters.
Yes.
Filters.
Yes.
I do like my filters.
Yeah. Agree. And
Not for this though. We don't. This is us unfiltered. I'm sorry, but with
fair enough. Yeah.
with the images, because like if it's really yellow, we're going to take some of that yellow out because that clashes with the style.
Exactly.
So I've got like a colour palette that it's lots of reds and blues and greys, which is the company colours.
But that's why you asked me not to wear yellow anymore.
You weren't supposed to tell them that.
Ooh, sorry about that. Well, look forward to future episodes and make
And
sure.
no yellow clothes.
Yes. And make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment or share with a friend on LinkedIn or Blue Sky, and check out the website
Yeah.
and your book.
My book, yes, the book is available, End Jet Lag. So it's available on Amazon. And if you catch me live, I'll even sign it for you and give you a discount.
There you go.